All right, here we are. We are live. It's Wednesday, March 6th, and we have a great friend as a guest. Today, we're having some interesting challenges for the rest of the crew. Llewellyn is on a train, and John Butler is in a um, what would you call that? An emergency last minute board meeting of sorts. So fascinating. Um, but let's see. The last few weeks have been very interesting on what's going on. I actually got back from Distributech in Orlando, some 15,000 people at the largest power grid show in North America. And we had a phenomenal week with meetings, 20 meetings per day, spending time with all kinds of utilities and technology companies, CEOs. And we even bumped into some great products and ranked the top four products in the market. And so we're excited about some of the things that we saw from WirePass, easy metering, from L3 Harris, which has an amazing product, probably the best product in the market today is a land mobile radio that talks cellular, traditional setup as a radio form factor, but it has a LCD screen and all the things that you would find on a mobile phone. And then so there was a new product from a company called Span. Span is sort of a new acronym for them. It's a smart panel. It's a panel for the house. It looks like a Tesla thing. It looks gorgeous, like an Apple thing, beautiful. It's like a $4,000 panel thing. It manages all your circuits. You can use it with your iPhone. That was very cool. And then WirePass has a technology that it's for telecommunications as well, to build a private network using 5G mesh. Very exciting technology. And then Easy Metering was launching their new certified by the FCC smart meter on the Aclara platform for the OG meters, using cellular technology for Anterix. Anterix is a company that owns a private network license on the 900 megahertz spectrum, and lots of stuff going on private networks for IoT, the power grid, mission critical infrastructure, and the like. And then, obviously, we spent a lot of time with the sentient energy sensors and solution products that they have for sort of location and visibility of the grid. And you put their sensors on all the power lines and the like. And then we also spend time with Tatless, which has a brand new product called Grid Data Management Platform, which is basically a universal translator of networking protocols and technologies. And it's a very simple, tiny little box that you put in, and it allows to move stuff from all kinds of um, technologies and protocols on networking that are used in the information technology realm and the operational technology realm and utilities. So anyway, with that said, as we talk a lot about, you know, um, smart cities, smart utilities, smart buildings, I wanted to welcome Sridhar and say hello. And maybe Sridhar, you can introduce yourself for the audience and tell us a bit about some of your journey and maybe what you're doing today and the company you're with, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Andres, for a great introduction and insights into the IoT that you were briefing. Some of that I would be covering today. I'm the energy and utility practice leader at SKKP, and our inspiration of offering our services to energy and utilities. It's a very funny story. Started from reading a book by John Gray. I don't know how many of you have read that book. men are from Mars and women are from Venus. That's what's going on in the utility world. The operational technology people are coming from one world, and the IT folks, all those IT services company, they want to offer tons of services to utilities, but they need to understand all the pain areas of the operational technology side of the business. Otherwise, it will end up nowhere, right? So SKKP established niche services, being that particular convergent or collaborative pillar between the IT and OT. And if you look at my journey, I started with a GIS in the 90s. Everybody's familiar with Autodesk, Bentley MicroStation, and ESRI ArcGIS. And those are also have become a kind of a uh, old products to many utilities, and they have become kind of a legacy products today. They don't want to get out of that because they are the backbone of the entire asset management, and all their feeders substations are mapped in it, so they cannot breathe without it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the scenario. So now, but the modern technology, like what we call it as so-called grid modernization, some people are calling it as digital transformation. They are recoining the phrases in multiple ways, but everything boiled down to the five key things that utilities do day in and day out. If you look at from the operation side, they always battle with things like reactive power optimization. How can I really improve voltage, current, and prevent transmission losses? How do I do line monitoring and control? How do I do grid monitoring and how I view grid in a single view? How can I view the entire grid, right? And as well as things like automation and reconfiguring the network in milliseconds and nanoseconds. And the technology is evolving every day. Today, if you see a product like Revilo from Landis Plus Gear, it does amazing things. It has a capability to take high resolution current and voltage today, which can transform into a kind of integrated in, edge intelligent card, right? So, and that's becoming popular. So what we focused on, things like what can really go out of the box for utilities, right? So today we are working with one customer on AWS IoT Greengrass, and for another customer, we are working with GreenLake HP solution for the cloud, and we are also working with Snowflake data scale up, which
Mm-hmm.
is scalable, right? So, and data insights. This is a very funny thing which I wanted to bring to a really 30,000 feet deep into on this roundtable talk. Everybody is talking about AI. It has become a common jargon, I can say, and utilities will never bet on the word called AI. Had they thought about that, 30 utilities, some utilities are as old as 100 years in North America, right? If you look at companies like PG&E, and
Mm-hmm.
there are many companies, right? So why not they did AI then, right? Simple question. Now, why that people are talking AI now and telling utilities we will make you smart? They know how smart others are, right? So utilities know pretty much what you are talking cannot be done here, right? Had
Mm-hmm.
it been done 10 years back, I would know when would my next transformer would blow up.
Right.
That is the true predictive analytics, right? that
Mm-hmm.
is where that is where the strength of SKKP is coming. Our AI doesn't mean something, look at image and tell a language. No, we don't. Okay, those are important to certain aspects. If you're looking at a industry like public sector where you are working with a CBI or police, that might be useful, that kind of case studies of using an AI, a generative AI. But in the utility world, it is much deeper. You need to play around with the real time data that's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
the load is such an important term, that four-letter word. If I just looked at the other day, and I just posted on my LinkedIn, in 2022 itself, how many gigawatt hour power loss was there in India collectively, looking at the northwest, south, and the east zone of the power companies, right? Such a huge gigawatt hour loss is not acceptable, right? So the whole thing goes in applying AI within the load itself. How can I really fix in nanoseconds, milliseconds, the entire power restoration or the fault that is happening? How can I repair the network, electrical distribution network, right? So these are some of the key aspects that we are working. So we are using to some extent other technologies too. We still use ESRI here, which is the
Mm-hmm.
uh, product. A lot of things can be done on that product in this modern world, and we use especially the ESRI electric network, which is very powerful, and we plan to customize that to few utilities and bring the all the IT/OT features into that. So this is where we are in the journey, and our specialization is all about think about things like when you work with a AMI 2.0 kind of meter, you need things like I'm just giving you a few examples: device language, message
Mm-hmm.
specifications, or companion specifications for energy meter management. An
Mm-hmm.
example I would say, I would tell today we are writing a use case where we are pinging a meter remotely, and if the meter is not responding, I can
Mm-hmm.
guess there is an outage happening here. Let me. So it's called a self-healing technology. We are going on a self-healing thing where customer doesn't even know there is some
Mm-hmm.
problem in their house, but we are fixing it remotely using all of these latest IT/OT device to device connectivity algorithms. That's a classic use case I can give you. And also, uh, when we get into utilities, there is many relationship models. We are forgetting those, as well as the IEC specifications. For example, IEC specifications such as 60256 specifically written around the device connection languages and messaging protocols you have to use. When I
Mm-hmm.
say relationship, it's much beyond what we are talking about. The relationship between meters to transformer matters. The relationship between meters to number of say the number of transformers to substation matters. So because there is a gasp everywhere. The meter is gasping, the transformer is gasping. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know why this is happening. I think I did some research internally, and I mapped like how many meters is feasible for a service transformer, where all one-to-one service transformer can be established for residential home, looking at the behavior of the load consumption, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so these are many use cases we are writing, and which will be useful for many utility. We are also publishing these days. One good thing we are doing is we are publishing on LinkedIn, so that the technology people, I know, Andres, like more than half a dozen people from top IT companies have interviewed me very recently, and when I speak them, they said, "Okay, okay, forget. Tell me how do you connect a meter to tell me a use case scenario how technology can connect meter to the distribution network." I've already told you, right? Today meters can take things like high voltage current and meter and transfer that to integrated edge
Yeah.
intelligence, but they don't understand those jargons. That's the pain factor. So I think a lot of education is needed to these so-called big tech companies who have
Mm-hmm.
to write software programs, but they don't
Yeah.
understand the basic operations of distribution network, transmission losses. I asked the other day just to a person who was interviewing, "Do you know what is a DLR?" He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't understand what's a DLR. What can I do, right? So I think we are in a scenario where I think what would be valuable is an organization, something like 512 CMG, conduct an education program for as a paid program for these big tech consulting companies. This will help. Why this is very important is a lot of utilities are spending a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
in the and living and getting into the gray area of system processes and people. The people themselves, they don't understand, hey, what this company is doing. They came as a tech company, but they're not doing anything related to my SCADA or my capacitor problem or my substation problem, right? Why do I need them? So
Mm-hmm.
education has become a very important crux of the thing as we are talking today. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
digital transformation or an AI. Once people understand the problem, they can go to any level of writing an algorithm to self heal or automate the system, right? So I think that I would leave at a point where we say we are truly at
Mm-hmm.
the curve, and we are at a phase where transform the knowledge to people so that
Mm-hmm.
utilities don't burn out
Yeah.
their dollars doing wrong things. Okay, I call this tech company, they told apples, but they are showing me oranges, right? So we don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go there, right? So
Yeah.
understand the domain knowledge very well through an organization like 512 CMG or somebody who can charter an initiative. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the message I will leave with it. And
Mm-hmm.
if anybody has any talk around this, we can have a kind of group discussion. uh,
Sure.
yeah, so I will leave my summary there.
So tell me real quick, let's go deeper into a lot of these things. I
Sure.
mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. You work for many, many companies. Tell me where are things from your point of view? There seems to be a big revolution that is forcing utilities to understand better what's happening in their network, their power network, right? So the distribution grid, the sort of the part of the grid that takes you to the residential,
Yep.
commercial, industrial customer, the that part of the grid has, sort of been, not very visible, some smart meters here and there.
Yep.
Maybe you need some more sensors, you need some more intelligence.
Correct.
And you're trying to really deal with, electric vehicles,
Yep. Yep. You nailed
energy storage,
it. Yep.
smart devices, things like that. What's your take on what's happening there?
See what's happening. If you look at the entire projections, right? I have done my own research projections. There is an
Mm-hmm.
8.31 billion dollar market for IoT, where utilities would need uh, certain services, right? And there are 14 specific technologies I've identified, like digital twin, DER. And with the increase of the load, right? For example, as
Mm-hmm.
I said, the meters are today, you brought the meter thing again nicely, Andres. So the meters are today have ability to take like 200 to 300 amp, right? Where they can be a kind of facilitator for the low increase in load for EV cars, heat pumps. And with the increase of renewable energy, what's happening is the solar and the wind energy coming into the play. And everyday forecasting is also a challenge. That's a totally a
Mm-hmm.
different subject. I can tell you why today SKKP is writing our own load forecast formulas, so that
Mm-hmm.
for every state we are writing for every day, every week, and a monthly forecast. And we are going to make it available through various cloud like the AWS, so that people can look at the load forecast, right? So the challenge I see here is, I know some other researchers has predicted the EV car industry is going to be a $700 billion market by 2050, and everybody is going on towards the green energy side, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do I now? One of the challenge for utilities would be obviously vehicle to grid is one area that's very important. And how do I really get the traditional feeders accommodate the, the additional load coming in from solar? So if I wanted to put my solar panels and sell and get the load back to the grid through their
Mm-hmm.
feed, can the feeders really accommodate that load? Already that feeder is overloaded sitting there, right? So there are challenges that grid need to be prepared to face these challenges. And I was talking to other day with the CEO of ESS, and they are doing amazing things on the storage battery. I think their first customer is smart Sacramento Utility, and they have built
Mm-hmm.
2 gigawatt hour storage battery. That's an amazing thing, because one thing or a couple of things we should not miss out here. In an attempt to modernize the grid should not uh, go out of things like resiliency, reliability,
Mm-hmm.
security. This is a very, very important area, because as you modernize, you forget something, and that something becomes something. And not many know, over 30 years there are utilities, I can tell you, still have not changed a single product like GE Small World. They say GE Small World is still our product, right? Now the thing is, why that is important. They have established systems, security, reliability, and all of this in place. Today a
Mhm.
new terminology called digital transformation cannot come and implement something which disturbs their network, that disturbs their the way they have established generation to distribution to transmission, right? And there are other areas that would emerge slowly, like the power tariff, right? The tariff for
Mhm.
transmission, open access transmission tariff, you know, the NISOs and KISOs. This is another area see, I'm telling you one, how one is related to other thing. Today, to increase, earlier when I was in Seattle area in 2007, I still
Mhm.
remember I was paying 6 cents a kilowatt hour, right? Now
Mhm.
it's like 13. And if you go a little bit to the next state, Nevada, it's like 23 to 26. Now,
Hmm.
as a customer, will I pay that over a period of time? Today, okay, I'm getting some free service for my car charge. Over a 3 years of time, everything, Electrify America and all these people would change their rates. It would, I bet you in 10 years from now, you won't find a price difference between an electric car charge and the gas price. They'll be the same.
Hmm.
Okay. Because the demand is going to increase, right? And I have to accommodate uh, the load for every car coming to charge, right? So I cannot provide you at a very cost effective rate, right? And I still remember when I came to Michigan, I paid 70 cents for a gallon. Today
Hmm.
it's like over 4.5 in. So that is another totally a different subject, pricing, price
Mhm.
pattern. So utilities have multiple things to think from their head. One is the costing, how we are going to price this commodity over a period of time. What are the predictive analytics on pricing itself? SKKP is writing a predictive, we call it as a different area. We call it as,
Mhm.
which is very popular terminology, commodity trading and risk management, where
Mhm.
products like Open Endure and Open Link and all those products go into there. But the thing is, what I'm trying to tell is, this space is huge now, and connecting the renewable energies with the traditional feeders, then about thinking about the age old assets itself is becoming a challenge. Now AMI 1.0, if you look at it, they came up with some, what, 10-year-old technology. Now the batteries are gone, it's becoming a redundant technology. So now moving into AMI 2.0 is another space migration, where
Mhm.
utilities working closely. So these are the things I would say I would address from the questions that you have asked, and each
Yeah.
has its own 30,000 feet deep air gap, and to fill those air gap is very important. That is where SKKP is focusing on how
Mhm.
we can come in with companies like Fighter CMG, do a workshop, discovery program, and try to
Mhm.
fix those things.
Are there any products or any best practices that you prefer that you guys are seeing that is the best way to go? Everybody's trying to, evolve from a SCADA to an ADMS. A lot of
Sure.
people are trying to do DERMS. A lot of people are trying to do different integrations of
Yes.
systems. Is there anything in particular that you would like to share?
Sure, Andre. See, I believe in certain times old is gold.
Mhm.
Never forget the old. Okay, things have established on industrial Internet of Things 4.0 framework. Things have been established on IEC standards. I don't know who is the last who looked at a architecture like Pera. Pera is is found by the Purdue professor, uh,
Mhm.
which is a kind of, it's called Purdue Reference Enterprise Architecture, right? Which uses things like factory talk and factory directory. Those are the languages to connect device to device, right? So I think what I feel is, remembering those standards, either it is a 61968 for distribution network management, or it's a TL57 architecture, security architecture, to build the your communication protocols between device to device. Never forget them, because those are the best practices. They have been tested by researchers, scientists, professors, right?
Mhm.
Bring those kind of standards into, and never forget the the two or three laws, right? The NERC, FERC, SIP standards, which are very critical. Infrastructure protection is the key. I just saw today a news on an insurance company, like I think some United Health Insurance, or I just got a message their entire network got hacked. So
Mm.
so we have to be careful. Okay, if we don't follow the security standards established by L57 or the NERC or the FERC, we lose out things. And how do you build that cyber security? That's very important. Cyber security
Mhm.
is going to be the key for any utility to make sure their network is reliable and solid, right? So I
Mhm.
still go to those standards. IT, the International Telecommunication Union standards, very important. NIST standards. ANSI standards also is very important here. For ANSI standards for communication security, that's very important. So just adhere to the standards. My only suggestion is I tell to those technology companies, read those standards and use cases carefully. Understand first that. Just go and tell an utility, I will use a TIPCO security or this, that. They are not going to take that. They are very smart. So yeah, so I'm just giving my 2 cents thoughts
Mhm.
about the principles and the standards they need to adhere, follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see another topic that maybe you can chime in where in addition to the fact that there is an evolution going on because of the EVs and the power walls and the solar panels and all this, at the sort of the customer premise, if you will, at the commercial, industrial, residential, and then obviously you have renewable energy replacing coal and gas, and at the utility scale, right? And that is creating perhaps a frequency challenge to manage things and stuff. What are your thoughts on internally at a company, a utility, that is dealing with the challenge of information technology versus operational technology? What the culture? How do you guys go about helping the customer, get the best of both worlds?
Very, very nice question. See, it all revolves around the data. Data is the most important thing. How much of that real data, true data, I am getting it, and getting the data analytics of it, not just an hour basis. I need a real data analytics coming every 10 minutes, if possible, from a residential customer or a commercial customer, right? And I see the DER programs, how effective they are. For example, let me tell you, I have been like 2007 right here in Seattle. None of the utilities came to my house, knocked my door. Hey, you can reduce the cost. Can you put solar panels? We will give you some discount. I've never seen one education happening, or I'm not aware of. At least I should have get a mailer or a mail.
Mm-hmm.
So the DR programs, right? Those are the programs that they need to get to customers to get more realistic data, right? I don't know how many of them know I have a solar or not on the top of my house today, right? When I say
Mm-hmm.
that, I'm referring to companies like Puget Sound Energy, Snohomish
Yep.
PUD, right? So the challenge would be, I think, getting the real numbers, which is the tough
Mm-hmm.
part. Even today, if you ask any utility, hey, how do you inspect your assets?
Mm-hmm.
They will not inspect everywhere. We take one area, we inspect. It will take several months to inspect the entire grid.
Right.
So that is a, see, if you look at within, I call it as a twofold. Your question to be twofold. One is within the grid. Within the grid is also important. If I know the real data within the grid and outside the grid, when I talk about
Mm-hmm.
outside the grid, it is the commercial and the residential customers using the grid, their consumption, how they are consuming the energy in terms of kilowatt hour. If you look at it, an average residential Washington customer,
Mm-hmm.
talking residential side, would consume anywhere from 900 to 1200 kilowatt hour. That's it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
commercial customer could go beyond that. But the point I'm trying to make it is, if you, one side, we have a challenge of the accurate data coming in from the customers itself, right? The other side is my data within the grid. Is my load is correct? Is my load
Mm-hmm.
capacity planning, grid need assessments, the GNS they do? These are also play a very key role. So I think the convergent and collaboration between IT and
Mm-hmm.
OT will scale even more. I would
Mm-hmm.
say, rather than convergent, I would say it would be more collaboration. They have to sit with each other,
Mm-hmm.
ITOT, and talk about the real-time data insights I'm getting from either residential and commercial customer, how I can
Mm-hmm.
really, uh, it's all at the end of the day, how can I reduce my bill, right? So
Right.
that's another thing, resolution of high billing systems, and all this is going with AMI 2.0. They're focusing on billing systems too. And you say that I think it's called it a transactional energy, or some
Mm-hmm.
of the terminologies we use there. So these are some of the things I think are very important from both utility side and the customer side,
Mm-hmm.
getting those data insights and working on those data insight in near real time, uh,
Sure.
right? So that's my take.
Right. And when you think about the power grid itself, the power grid is sort of a foundational enabler, as electrification of everything seems to be the next thing that is happening everywhere, from transportation to everything else. Um, what about or are you guys doing anything around smart cities and the assets that cities have, and how that integrates and leverages the power grid itself? Anything that you're doing there in terms of how cities, communities, municipalities, little towns, they should be more proactive about understanding the
Correct.
power grid, electrification, transportation, their
Yes.
assets? How does that come together?
Got it. Nice question. So we are looking at few areas like building energy management, which is very important when it comes to smart city applications. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
s- One thing we are very focusedly working on is on microgrids. That's very important, because
Mm-hmm.
what's happening in the remote location where the population is less than 100 or 200, I cannot build a grid there, right? I cannot truly build. So how can I use renewable energies in microgrid and make it as a small smart city? Even those places,
Mm-hmm.
smart city. So we are working on those kind of initiatives as we are talking today. We
Mm-hmm.
are getting a demo on wedge manage, which is a very important for smart city. So in a lot of cities are hit by trees during the wind time, and there's a heavy cost of restoring powers, putting new poles, new feeders. It's a very cost effective thing. So we are building an AI for smart cities, and how we can bring this AI with kind of weather applications, collaborating with weather applications. So this is something
Mm-hmm.
we're doing in a very, I can say, on a surface, but we might go deeper and look at other technologies that would bring a truly a kind of energy smart city.
Yeah.
So that's something we are trying to do. And one suggestion I have here, like I have seen lot of residential houses today, they are having smart bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important. I went to one house the other day. Whichever room I walk, the light doesn't glow up until I walk into that room. They have entirely made it as a walkable on and off. So
Mm-hmm.
that are smart things to make to grow to build more smart cities. Smart technologies are needed. I think every house going on to solar is a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
A small town with 100 or 200 or 300 population, or say 1,000 population, we can go for even charging the car with the wind energy. Wind energy, just put the
Mm-hmm.
cable wind energy and charge your electric cars. In that way you can make those small number of groups to adopt to EV cars, and make even the small cities a green environment. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things coming up in my mind as we are talking. Why not we charge a car through wind, using a GE windmill, charge your car?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? I have one windmill in the city that will charge the car, right? So,
Sure.
yep.
Absolutely. So when you look back at the pace of the change, there seems to be, the big enabler of anything new is funding, money, right? So there seems to be a lot of money out there. There's a group one and a group two. There's you know, funding for the EV charging stations. There's all kinds of funding for reliability, cybersecurity, DOE has been, throwing a lot of money at the marketplace. Are you seeing any of that? Are you participating in any of that? Are you benefiting from any of that?
I am reading that very closely. Today, I
Mm-hmm.
get like a kind of an energy rebate check from the government to my own house for my own. I have put a center point. What is that? Uh, Charge point. I have put charge point EV charger in my garage, and as I charge for a few months, I get some rebate checks from the government for the charge time I'm using. And I also see a lot of car manufacturers getting some funding from the government on the EV car rebates, and they are giving 3 years, sorry, free charging for the cars. But what I strongly feel, one area, this funding that is coming, I think it's my 2 cents again. The government
Mm-hmm.
should think really what areas it needs. Okay, EV car funding, or giving rebates on EV car, that's all a different story. But there is a bigger kilowatt hour loss happening in the entire grid itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think rather than the fund coming out to the public, it should come out. I don't deny that, but
Mm-hmm.
they should spend that money in strengthening the grid itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Example, I will tell you, IEC 60256 says how, sorry, 286 says how I can strengthen my transmission line above 45 kV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spend money on that. Make your transmission line strong, so that the power loss is happening less, right? So
Right.
I think even the energy department of US, they should think about, not see the terminology is making them spend money like anything. Oh, EV car,
Mm-hmm.
we are going with the green environment, we are reducing carbon, this, so the money is going there. Okay, but that's only a part of the story. Okay, you make that good, but what happens to your grid itself, right? The,
Mm-hmm.
we cannot say grid cannot stop generating power through their whatever traditional means they are. It will take time, right, till everyone,
Mm-hmm.
the sorry, the renewable scalable infrastructure, right? So my take is that money need to be re-examined, and say what are our priorities, right? How much of it should go on the renewable side, how much of
Mm-hmm.
that should go in making our assets better, infrastructure better within the grid, security better within the grid. So I'm talking more from the operation side, right? So the operation side also, they have a lot of challenges. They need to spend money in acquiring better technology. Today they are talking about ADMS integration with SCADA and all of these outage management system. There's a lot of money needed to build that. It's not simple thing. There are more features that need to be added into those products, right? For example, today a company like Siemens, right? The spectrum has a high voltage capability to take into their product. So now,
Hmm.
see, so I'm just giving you some examples from that side of the business and this side of the business, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so that is, I think we need to re-examine that money and make our infrastructure. See, aging assets and aging workforce has always been a challenge. There is a money that goes in training the young workforce.
Right.
Maybe somebody was operated that particular substation for 30 years is no more. But
Yeah.
how do my 19-year-old employee can manage that substation? It's nightmare as we are talking on these things, right? and
Yeah.
and operating grid is very, very challenging, because one mess up goes, the entire network is gone, faulted, and we are
Yeah.
without power within 1 to 2 hours, and federal penalties are huge on a
Yeah.
5 minute outage. I think it's about 700,000 or something. I have to check the numbers. That's the
Hmm.
penalty FERC puts on Duke or any other organization out there. So
Sure.
yeah, so I think yes. So money has to be spent internally well and externally well. Power within, power outside, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about your thoughts on what you see happening in the industry and maybe what you guys are working on the sort of the challenge of you have the cloud, you have in-prem systems. The utilities have always want to use their systems in-house. Now
Correct.
you have the cloud as an element that is being added to maybe billing, AI, analytics. Maybe some people want to run SCADA in the cloud, but then you also have edge compute. So,
Correct.
what are your thoughts about what's happening there between edge compute, the cloud, and the behind the data center at the utility? What's
Nice question.
winning?
Uh,
How are things evolving?
Very nice question. See, that is where security is always a challenge. I cannot leave my network open to a public and get the public put hands on onto my meter or my infrastructure, right? That's a challenge. So if you look at, it's a simple example, but there's a lot of value in that example. If you look at AT&T mobile network, right, you can connect to anywhere today where AT&T Wi-Fi is there. They have made it secured for people to connect on their own network as well as on the public network securely. That's why things like AWS Sidewalk, right, which has come up very
Mm-hmm.
nice. So what it says is, hey Shri, we are going to use your router modem, but don't worry, right? We will get the data very securely from your house, right? And cache that data, whether it is your meter data or any of the energy data that we are want to um, get it from, without making people to hack your network, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
very important. So over a period of over 30 years, utility have always challenged with this pain area, right? My network should be my network. Mm, even my substation network should not talk to the other substation network. That strict they are, right? So nobody can even can attempt to access into a substation network. So digital substations today, right, with things like IEC 62325
Mm-hmm.
standards, communication within substation, right,
Mm-hmm.
is becoming a very secured communication. So as cloud evolves, like AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google or HP Green Lake, what's going to happen is they are going to convince utility and getting those architectural standards complying to FERC and NERC. That's what I think it will eventually happen, and they'll build a secure architecture where utility, like whether it is Duke or Comet, they can get the data of the customer. But one challenge today we have is cloud cannot really scale to the level. I can talk various limitations, but I'm telling you from my little bit hands-on onto things like sidewalk and all. So caching the data, not unable to store it in a kind of storage card or whatever, alternate ways to store the data, right? That's becoming a challenge, right? So for example, if you look at Revilo, which is a Landis and Gare product, they have a very nice way to store high resolution voltage and current in a edge intelligent card, which they call.
Mm-hmm.
We need more that kind of scalable technologies. And if you look at the relay speed, the speed at which the data get transferred, these are challenges that we were facing over a period of time with AMI 1.0. So the two things is going to happen now. A is a, I will tell, this is my favorite company, so I wanted to tell. I
Mm-hmm.
think NVIDIA will challenge this industry. NVIDIA will make a chip, put it as an OS sensor chip, put it in the
Mm-hmm.
sensor, done. They will do the AI at the speed of light. They'll get you a customer data at the speed of light, right? They are going to do this. You can watch it. They will do this, and they are very good in. They have proved that their chip is much faster, reliable, secured.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how much of they convince the FERC, NERC, and get their entire architecture um, uh, compliance with the grid is the
Yeah,
next that if the PUC approves, why not? NVIDIA will have a
sure,
big piece there, right?
sure, sure. I
Hi,
see
John.
that. I see that our own John Sibley Butler is finally joining us. Johnny, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
I think he's on mute.
Yeah, yeah, he's muted.
Yeah.
He'll unmute himself here in a second. Uh-oh. Johnny cannot unmute himself. Anyway, while Johnny's trying to figure that out, there's a
You know,
question.
I
Oh,
am
there
here.
you go,
Hey,
Johnny.
John, good afternoon.
So sorry you've been missing out. We were having a great conversation, deep dive into the grid, and I was going to share with Sridhar our question that was posted just now by Scott Foster. So Sridhar, I don't know how much you know about Anterix. I think I told you about it that we were with them and Distributech and their private network, private LTE. And so the question is, what are your thoughts about private telecom networks versus using AT&T or Verizon or anything else?
Uh, See, if you go through the route of Verizon or AT&T, again, it comes to your question, Andres. How much of the technology would they build around smart grid from the
Mm-hmm.
security side, right? For the meters, especially. So, because meter data management is going to play a bigger role, right? I'm just talking about
Mm-hmm.
outside the grid. But if you go to the inside the grid, I think private LTE would be the best way to build communication, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so my substation, if I can leverage 5G or 4G technology from other telecom providers, why not? But I want it to be securely built for that particular activity itself, so that
Mm-hmm.
when a messaging and alert is going, it is going from my uh, between my control operators, whether my control
Mm-hmm.
operator is using a mobile phone or any other device, right? The messaging
Mm-hmm.
is within the grid. So we
Yeah.
need both. I think the better answer for me to Scott is we need both. We need the private LTE for certain operations within the grid. We need the open access internet, which I call WISERD. WISERD stands for wireless smart utility device
Mm-hmm.
interoperability, right? So we need WISERD and wireless protocols more, and write algorithms around those protocols, how it need to be accessed, who need to be given permission, for what we have to access this. For example, if utility thinks this data is essential for me from Andre's home or Shree's home or John's home or Scott's home, then we have to give some open access network, right? We have to make
Mm-hmm.
open access. That's my answer, to
Yeah.
be very short and sweet.
No, that's good. That's good. Johnny, you want to chime in?
Yeah, the reality is right now, of course, we have another private network for the military. We know that this present
Yeah.
this this present internet that we have was created by the military in the 50s, so that during a nuclear war we could communicate. And I also think that if you look at what we are doing, if you have a country that's embedded in the old way, it's much more difficult to switch. However, if you have a country that's coming online in the in the internet, certainly it's going to be wireless. It's not going to be anything that we have now. And I think the big question is what happens when everything goes out. So in Austin, AT&T lost its service for a while, and everybody was LOST, lost. And just like you said, it would be a combination of both going forward.
Exactly. I
Because the
agree.
present internet cannot handle things. I sent Andre a copy of a great article on how we are poised to run out of electricity if we don't do something. But we got to have multiple ways to meeting the electric, because the big thing now is not necessarily the technology, it's the electricity to run the technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we are. If we can have a wireless, if we can plug our phones in, if we can plug our cars in. Everybody talks as if electricity is something that just comes out of a manor, but actually it's produced and it has a life cycle. You got to use it right when it's produced, and it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And you reminded me very nicely when you took that military thing, and this is a very, very valuable. I think what I'm going to say very different. Maybe I don't know if any utility is here on the call. They might think something I'm going to tell here. If you look at the old thing, right, that BlackBerry, you would have remembered the BlackBerry phone, right? They had specific protocols for army, and it was known as the army phone more than military phone rather than a public phone, because the security in that BlackBerry was so strong. It has 3 level, 4 level securities in the phone, and most militaries were using BlackBerries. I think one of the things coming into mind, I don't know, this is a very vague idea. Uh, Let AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile be a kind of customer. When I say customer, I'm talking about commercial customers like Walmarts and the Nikes versus as well as the customers, residential customers like you, me. What utilities should do is, if they can figure out a telecom company that can be born out of it, and be only operating with the utilities and the residential customers or commercial customers using the power in a very secured environment. So what happens is, now we are not talking about so when I say that, right, we are not going to use phones that we are using now, the services I'm saying. So probably an ex company will come with a different service on a different phone, or within the phone they will build their own security. I don't know how this is going to, this is a vague idea, but what I'm going to tell is, separate the existing network, like existing Verizon, T-Mobile, and all of them, and create an identity as a collaboration of all of these companies, maybe, which would operate specifically for between utilities and the customers. I don't
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
this can happen.
It's a somewhat of a hybrid private network. I think I understand what you're trying to say, but so
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you something, Sri, maybe that this plays into Johnny and want John to chime in, but do you think that business models, new ways of thinking about how to pay for things is really probably the most important element of the innovation cycle that is missing? There seems to be a lot of the technologies here, but what's missing is who pays for it, what are the benefits? Do you think the business models, what role do they play? How important are they?
but that a long time ago in I heard Michael Dell say, well, the content for the internet is commercial. He said that a long time ago before it became commercial. And there are two things we have to be very, very aware of going forward. First of all, the internet is our business model now, right? And that also means everybody pull their seat belt tight. It could be taken over by the United States during times of emergency. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the BlackBerry was so powerful that was launched from Canada, because they understood that. But the business models going forward will be security. I mean, look, our nuclear weapons run on this thing now, right? It will be commercial. Everybody's ordering things, including houses and everything from on the internet. All right. But more importantly, the hundreds and thousands of ways to make money that we haven't even thought of yet. The commercialization would be absolutely awesome. So Andreas, I think that in terms of what we call new business activity, I'm late because I was at a board meeting of one of my companies, by the way. What we think about as new business activity, it is all about the utilities now.
Mm-hmm.
Utilities used to be something where we just turn it on, right? But now it has become interwoven with all of the business models of the world, right? And the globalization or the movement of industry around the globe and the movement of money around the globe, is one of the most amazing things that happened in the 20th century. And as we move on to the 21st century, it will become much more dominant as we begin to get, what the hell is money now? Is it Bitcoin? Is it based on everything? Well, at the center of that is Andre Cavalli's smart grid. And that's a big change that people have not thought of. It's not just the light zone anymore. It's the entire movement of industry. It is the entire protection of companies. And what comes with that are security features. That's what comes with that. Yeah. So I think, I think we sit at the very, very center now of the movement of commerce, and all of the utilities do too. And we need to talk about that now.
Sri, what do you think of all that?
I think, yes, I think what John said, he rightly nailed out the points on the security side, right? One thing comes into my mind. I don't know if this would be relevant, but maybe I'm not aware of things that is happening in blockchain. Okay, so blockchain is another area which I'm thinking. Who touched the grid last? Who operated the grid last? Who was the reason for service breakdown? Now, these questions are also valuable from the operational side of the grid, because what happens is, you need to know what happened within the grid, right? So if you blockchain or sign off documents from people who are operating, that will also enhance security. That's very important from the security side, because we don't want to blame somebody else for some service breakdown, right? So yeah, so those are my thoughts there. I don't know how much blockchain has been adopted by many utilities, whether it is a transactional energy transactional document or an operational document. Are they blockchained, those documents, right? That's another area one need to explore on the security side. Yep.
I agree.
Yeah,
Blockchain, as you know, is a ledger. It lets everybody know what everybody else has been doing. And not all companies are, especially the U.S. government or any government, want to come on blockchain and talk about their strategy. Blockchain is a ledger. If you're doing a business deal, I can go on and see everything you've done, what you want to do.
Yeah.
Everybody who signed, right? And that's very open source. I'm not sure if you want your company or your utilities doing that either.
Yeah,
But it's out there, and it's a way of confidence and trust rather than security.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I think that, blockchain, transactive energy is still being challenged by the monopolies and all that. And I think maybe eventually over time that things like that will start happening more and more. I think they're happening a little bit in places like Australia and maybe the UK.
Yeah.
But it's still very early on how this is all going to evolve. And the challenge with all this is what we're discussing. Cybersecurity is the management of people's time, is the management of people's devices, their infrastructure, all that, right? So So it's really, you know, easier said than done, right? And as we are creating more, you know, infrastructure that it's accessible, you know, sort of accessible, dispatchable, reliable. And, you know, we're still gathering the data, deploying the sensors. That's why I think that, you know, in parting thoughts, Sri, when you think about your opportunity, isn't the biggest opportunity to really instrument the grid, sensorize the grid as
Correct.
much as possible, so that we can actually see and enable all kinds of things on top of the grid. So if I had true visibility of my grid 24/7, 365 in real time, wouldn't that be the most foundational important thing to do
Yes.
to enable new services?
Exactly.
But, you know,
See,
Andreas, what has happened, we've gone through IT, what's attached to us, our cell phones, to OT. We're just interacting with the machines. See, the interesting thing about it is that we had a great understanding of IT in a great book by the Stanford professor on the Internet of Things. But OT, where the grid and the internet is interacting with machines, is a whole different game. There's a whole different game. So we've got to integrate both the IT and the OT, the operational technology. But the OT is machines now. It's not me. It's not you. It's not us, right? It is how we will log on and do business with machines. And of course, it started with airplanes and no pilots now. You know, it started with trains and no conductors or zones. So going forward, if you and all of this came from the military, by the way. And going forward, if you ask one question, how will industries will be disruptive? And you know that our good buddy, the king, who's not here, just simply believe that AI is everything, is something to be frightened of, and the frightivity, if you will, comes from the fact that the OT side, you're dealing with machines now, and not people. It's machines that's plugging in. It's not Andreas that's plugging in. So it would have all kind of implication for business models and innovation. I'm working with so many companies now. I'm working with a company that has the smell test now. You have a sensor that can smell. A pretty interesting company. I'm working with a company now where every amount of utility that a hotel uses, the towels, right, the sheets, they all have identification on, and you can tell when it wears out. But we won't be doing that. Machines will be doing that, and I think that's a different thing, right?
Agree. Sri, any parting thoughts? We're coming to the end here, so
I wanted to go back to your point on the grid itself, right? See, things like very important is today we are looking at things like milli and nanosecond network time, resolution network time for things like phase and grid anomaly detections. That's are very important. And I already mentioned few things on microarc for early detection of the things that are getting heated up, like the examples I gave you, right? So these are some of the things that we need to look at the infrastructure side AI also, like should I need to replace or repair my assets? These are some of the things that need to be looked at a larger scale, because these features or these parameters would also impact the performance of the grid, right? So because in the race to implement technology, let us not leave our infrastructure behind, right? Today we don't know where is that underground feeders. They were like 30 years back put under the ground. I don't know how many of that surfaced, how many of that became, and they changed it to above the ground or whatever it is, right? So there are many challenges on the assets also, figuring out whether the health of the assets is good or not. So that is important.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Johnny, we gotta go.
Yep.
Sri, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I appreciate you guys. Johnny, you have a guitar? You want to sing us
Yeah, I
away?
got a little guitar, huh? You could read my mind, love. What a tale my thoughts would tell.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Just like an old time movie about a ghost from a wishing well. And in a castle dark, or a fortress still with chains up on my feet. Oh, that ghost was me, and I could never, as long as I'm a ghost that you can't see.
Woo!
Okay.
Thank you, Sri.
I
Thank you
guess
for
I'll
today.
stop. Okay, y'all
Take
got
care,
it.
guys. Have a good time. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.